Welcome everybody to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Every Wednesday night we play indie games both submitted by developers and some from my massive collection of games as a way of showcasing off titles from smaller developers and giving them some free coverage. If you'd like to submit a game for a future stream, please get in touch. But we are beginning with the game Bitvault. And this is essentially a puzzle game that's trying to go for sort of the open-ended puzzle design that we see from something like a Zachtronics with far less brain meltiness, although this game does get pretty high there. Our mechanic for the evening is that we control that blue sphere, and our goal is to get it to reach the endpoint that you see on the right hand side. And it can only move by leapfrogging over some of those purple or purplish kind of figures. The challenge comes in by the fact that you're able to move the objects as well, and you're trying to set up these kinds of lanes. And the story is that we are part of a hacking company, and we have been hired to do all manner of hacks, again, represented by these various puzzles. And of course, there's some deep conspiracy and probably some evil corporation we'll have to fight at some point. Now, to perfect a puzzle, you need to collect all basically the purple objects in the arena. That means leapfrogging over them so none remain, and collecting the bonus cube that you see at the bottom. Those cubes are used essentially as a progression, and you'll unlock more levels or be able to do more of the story by collecting a certain number. And as you can see, the challenge of the game is that you're essentially having to think at least 2 to 3 moves ahead at all times, as you need to provide clearance for your sphere to make it across, but you can't remove too many or you'll be left stranded. And one of the things I notice about the puzzles is they typically end up either being built around like one distinct way of winning, or there's enough objects that it almost provides a symmetrical solution, as in you could go the northeast route to a puzzle or the southwest route, depending upon the shape of the field, and because of how things are organized, you're able to make it across like so. And again, the footage that you're seeing right now is taken early in the game, and this gets very challenging as you play further on. We had developers on, we were talking to them while we were playing this, and one of the major points about the game is that each quote-unquote world or company you hack adds a unique modifier to these rules. In the second world, what happens is every time you essentially cross over from one of those orange spots, the space becomes unmovable, or if you try to cross over again, you lose, basically forcing you down these one-way roads. And developers spoke about trying to come up with a variety of solutions and means of getting through the game. And again, this may not look complicated and it doesn't start off that way, but there is certainly a lot going on in terms of how these puzzles play out and the various mechanics that become introduced. In terms of, I guess, any issues I have with the game, I think the primary one, what may hold people back, is that there really isn't a lot here in terms of a presentation or overall package point of view. The story around the various corporations, I don't think it's interesting or different enough to kind of motivate you to keep playing. And again, the puzzles themselves essentially exist in their own little microverse. There's no open style progression or things like that. And if you are looking for a puzzle game that goes along those lines, you're not going to find with Bitvault. But if you are looking for something that's going to definitely have some head-scratching solutions, I would say give this one a check, because I did like the game despite the fact that my head was starting to overheat by the end of our play. But we now turn our attention to something very different. This is In Other Waters. This is a narrative-driven game that is essentially presented as just a fully diegetic experience. We play the AI on board a diving suit that belongs to a missing doctor and friend of our main character. After we've been brought online, it's up to us to help her discover where the friend has gone on this mysterious alien world. Now, the gameplay, as you can see, is essentially all built around the UI of the suit itself. You're able to plot course, pick up and scan various objects, and essentially move around in this very abstracted point of view. And as we explore, the world will kind of shift and change around us as we try to figure out what is happening. There is some level of completionist as you try to find and catalog all the various creatures and plant life on the planet, and progression in terms of unlocking new features for your suit, and more areas to explore. So this is one of those games that completely goes all in for its atmosphere and kind of the entire UI, again, being diegetic or in-universe. And as you play through it, you'll unlock essentially more features and things to do. But for the most part, this is very much a low-stakes kind of game. While there is kind of the growing pressure of having not enough life support or running out of oxygen on the ocean floor, this is not a game that is going to kill you or, force you into a boss fight or anything like that. And again, when we talk about games of this kind, this is one of those titles that you're going to know probably within 10 to 20 minutes whether or not you're going to be all in for it. If you're hoping for greater levels of game interaction or an evolving gameplay loop, I don't think In Other Waters goes that far. But with a very interesting story, and again, just a different way of presenting the UI, I would say this is one of those games that if you like what you're seeing, or if what I'm describing sounds at any bit intriguing to you, give it a try, because you may end up loving it. And now we turn to something very different. This is Touhou Mechanical Scrollery. And yes, I did not mispronounce that last part. But for this game, this is a 3D kind of bullet hell, very mission-focused title. I have not played any of the Touhou games, so I can't tell you, what the story or lore is or anything like that. But essentially it involves these magic girls who are trying to fight demons and find a book, and yeah, I'm not quite sure what was going on there. But the game is broken up into these various missions where you have to either kill specific enemy types, collect X amount of resources, and just do something to end the map. Now, of course, with Touhou in the title, there is a lot of bullet hell. And once you get past the opening levels or the opening tutorials, things turn into a laser light show of death. The game features two different characters that have different moves and abilities to them. And it's a very interesting take on this design. Again, when I think of Touhou and bullet hell, I'm thinking of the top-down or isometric-based games. So playing in 3D is certainly a different taste. And as you can see here, things can get very hectic quickly. Now, the game from a playability standpoint has some pretty big issues. The control scheme is all over the place. You have different movement options, different ways of firing your guns, specials, normal attacks, special attacks, magic attacks. And again, combined with two characters makes things even more complicated. And I feel like basically across the board onboarding and playability for the UI would have done the game some good. Now, after we did play this, there are reports the game does allow for key rebinding, but it didn't really feel comfortable to play. Now, for what's here, again, it feels like a very basic take on kind of the mission-based structure and overall progression. There are some elements of Monster Hunter here, with getting resources from the missions which will allow you to unlock or upgrade your gear, thereby giving you more power as you play. There's also different difficulty levels that will reward you with different resources for completion. And yeah, that's it for this game. Again, this is one of those titles that I feel like the concept works, but the overall presentation and just onboarding doesn't really do it for me. And if you do enjoy kind of bullet hell style games, you may get some enjoyment out of it, but fighting the controls may keep you from fully enjoying this game. And again, the story is not exactly going to be the most interesting, and that may not exactly motivate you either. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we got a few more games to look at for this video. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. For our final game in this video, we have Infinite Beyond the Mind. This is a modern retro kind of hack and slash action game. You can play this with 2 players, remote or local co-op, or you can just play it single player as you see here. And the game itself starts out on the good side. You are basically trying to save the world from an evil empire, and that's going to require you to hack and slash your way through lots and lots of nondescript guards and a variety of boss fights, with some great pixel graphics and chiptune-like music to go along with it. Now, you're able to do a dodge, and that kind of consumes your meter in the upper left, and you'll also gain more abilities and powers as the game goes on. And the game starts out well enough in terms of its design. Levels afford multiple paths with secrets for you to find, such as 1-ups or health upgrades. And the bosses have that very standard, fixed or slightly random pattern for you to deal with. But the problem the game has is that both the difficulty of the game feels a little outmatched, and the general pacing goes on far too long. We played this for about an hour and a half, I think a little bit more than that during our stream, and outside of a few kind of vehicle or on-rail shooting sections, the game does not really change. You're going to be spending every level, or the majority of them, going from left to right, dodging these random guys, and just running right through. There are no points or any reason to collect items off of enemies, so your best strategy is just to ignore them best you can and just keep pushing. And this turns the game into more of just a slog than anything else. Things get more frustrating as you get further in, and the game introduces more and more death pits to the situation, where fall into a pit and you're going to lose one of your lives. And the moment where I threw the flag up was when we ran out of lives, the game ended, and either A, it doesn't save on the hardest difficulty, or B, the save feature didn't work, and I lost the entire night's worth of play. And if that was a feature, that is definitely a bad one. And if it's a bug, then that should have been something that should have been looked at very much during the playtesting of it. And it's a shame, as there are some really great elements here. The gameplay felt responsive. It had a very great feel in my hands, and some of the boss fights are very inspired in terms of their design and just kind of the look and feel of it. But I can't recommend this game in terms of just being an all-around solid experience, and it kind of feels less than the sum of its parts because of these issues. If you've already exhausted great 2D style games like Cuphead and some of the other indie games that we've played in the past, then this could be a good game to pick up then. But if you are looking for something that is just all around great, I cannot recommend this one all the way, unfortunately. So, with that said, we're going to wrap up this Indie Dev Showcase video here. I'd like to thank all the developers who submitted games, and you'll find links to them in the description down below. If you'd like me to take a look at your game for a future stream, please get in touch, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.